How do you make your relocation go more smoothly? Today, I'm joined by my colleagues, Sarah Percival, Manfred Schlesiger, and Annalee Rice, as we talk about relocations. Here in Ottawa, military and government relocations are just part of the rhythm of the year, and between our guests, I'm sure that they have helped hundreds of our public service and military members buy and sell their homes with a minimum of headaches. Today, they're going to share their tips for selling or buying a home when you don't have a lot of time. My name is Nick Fundytus, and this is the Realtor in Your Pocket podcast.
You're listening to Realtor in Your Pocket podcast. Do you want a head start on buying, selling, or renting in Ottawa? You're in the right place. Every episode brings you great advice and insight that you can keep in your back pocket until you make your move. And now, here's your host, Nick Fundytus.
Okay, so we've got you all in the studio today. This is the first time that we've had a full three guests, so thank you all for coming on the show. And just so everybody can hear your voices, Annalee, can you say hi and just tell us how long have you been a realtor for?
I'm in my fourth year as a realtor.
Yeah, and you do a lot of military moves because you have some background in the military, don't you?
I was 22 years in the military, and so most of my business is military.
And two little fun facts about you. Number one, what did you do?
I flew helicopters.
And your main helicopter, where is it now?
In a museum about 2 kilometers from my house.
It retired just a little while before you did, right?
Actually, I retired before the helicopter did.
Okay, yeah. And Sarah, how about you?
I've been in real estate for 15 years, and my military focus started because I did my first year of real estate in Ottawa, and so I was working amongst colleagues that 60 to 70% of their business was military and happened within a 3-month period of the year. So I was able to build a lot of really good connections with people and build a good referral network, and as such, do a lot of military relocations.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
And Manfred, how about you?
Good morning, Nick. Thanks for having me. I've been just approaching 20 years now in the business. So yes, touched on military and government moves, of course, and across the board in terms of pretty much anybody who's moving. So
excellent. We've got a lot of experience here. So let's start by talking about relocations in general, government or not. What makes a move different when you have to do it for work? So Manfred, why don't you start with this one?
Sure. When you have to do it for work, you have typically less time. Oftentimes when you're coming into Ottawa seeking a home, you have a fixed time window in which to find something. And that poses unique challenges for both, obviously, yourselves and us as realtors, because we just don't have the luxury of time and the luxury of simply seeing a whole huge amount of houses. And that's a challenge across the Ottawa market for really anybody, and given our limited supply these days. So certainly prudent to start early and have the realtor engaged even before you arrive.
Good stuff. How about you? Anything that you feel is different when somebody's relocating for work?
Yeah, I find the focus and the priorities shift a little bit. While, working with any client, resale is obviously very important, but it's kind of extra important because while they're moving here, they know that they're going to be moving away from here in a certain period of time. And so resale value is and location and things like that are incredibly important to consider.
I think one of the things is that a lot of the people who, especially for the military, when they move here, they may not know Ottawa, and Ottawa is a very vast city, like space-wise, so they could be working in different locations. They may get multiple postings in the same location, so they may not know the area, and they may not be choosing to move to Ottawa. Most people make moves because they want to move. These people are sometimes making moves because they have to move. So
I'll touch on that too. I've noticed over the years that emotion can be a big part in this. People, if they have to move, especially if you're moving out of Ottawa and you've made friends, you've made connections in the community, and then you find out, hey, you're posted somewhere else and it's a city maybe you've never heard of and never wanted to go to, or maybe Ottawa is that city and you're coming in. You've been in Halifax, and holy crap, how expensive are the houses here compared to Halifax? It's a big shock. There's a lot of emotion. So as realtors who work with those people, we're not just managing the move, we're managing the emotions as well. So military and government clients, how do you find their needs are different than a typical home buyer or home seller?
Well, a lot of the points have been touched on, but resale is a big one. They're probably only here for, especially military, they're here for just a few years potentially, and so they need to make it work for a period of time. But they also probably don't have the time to be doing a whole lot of work on a home when they're here. Like they can't put that investment into it so much over the time, but to gain equity.
So you're saying a lot of people are
resale.
looking for sort of the move. A lot of people are looking for the move-in ready place.
Yeah.
How about you?
Yeah, I think with military and any government relocation, you're dealing with a lot of moving pieces in a really defined period of time. Like we definitely don't have the luxury of time. So, you're keeping in mind, okay, what's their closing date on the sale of their house? What's their change of service date? What kind of dates do we have? And they're kind of locked in because BGRS typically likes a door-to-door move. So the dates that you're working with are a little bit more finite and defined. And then, of course, resale value. If they have kids, are we looking at, they want to be in a specific school board, certain activities, recreational activities, proximity to work. There's just a lot of pieces to put together.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to improve on what our associates have said here because, yeah, it's very obvious that time is critical. Resale value is critical. Location is critical. Although Ottawa, by and large, is a relatively easy city to get around in. So one could live in Orleans, for example, and work at the new facility in the far west end, but I'm sure that'd be preferred not to. So little things like that. Again, we're very blessed here to have, relative to some of our larger cities, a pretty easy commute.
Yeah. And I would say for somebody who's never done a military move, either as a mover or as a realtor, somebody involved with it, it's hard to understand when you have a buyer come in, if you haven't done it before, how packed that week is. I think you just did a relocation this week. I know that you two have probably had some this year already. And we're listing a place where the seller, he wants it sold in less than a month so that he can firm up on a place that he has fallen in love with on the other end. So just the time crunch, and that you have to know your clients very well, very quickly. It's not like your neighbor who's like, oh, a couple of years, I'm going to move. You can slowly get everything ready. That's not the case here. Hey, it's Nick Fundytus. Question, what's your favorite social media platform? Are you big on Instagram? Do you Reddit? No matter where you are, I'd love for you to find me there and connect. All you need to do is type @NickFundytus and follow, and let's you and I connect. I'd love to be able to provide you the right answers, the right resources, and the right content to help you make your next move. If you send me a question, I always answer back. So subscribe, and I'll see you there soon. Selling a house for a government relocation. So selling specifically, how is it different? We talked about time. Let's talk a little bit about BGRS, so Brookfield.
Well, there's number one, they have set commission structures that we have to adhere to. You have to be, first off, registered with BGRS to be allowed to receive payment from them. So it's important for any government member or military member to make sure that the realtor that they're working with is actually registered. And I think the biggest difference is that pressure for time. Because as always, they have a defined amount of time and they want to be making their way onto their house hunting trip. So the faster you can sell while they're looking at properties in their new destination, the faster you can sell, the quicker that they can move on and get their, pick of the pack kind of thing where they're going.
All right. That's very good. I'm going to pick at this a little bit and say to you two here, Annalee and Manfred, to the seller who says to you, well, let's try it at this price. Whereas you've done the research and you know that it should sell at this price. Let's try it at $850, but the market is really telling you when you're looking at comparables at $799 or something. What skills do you have to have as a realtor, and what as a seller do you need to be able to do to make your move successful?
Well, I mean, I'll use the line that I often use is we don't sell real estate, we manage people's expectations. And in that case, I have a very firm agreement with those sellers, and most people are very realistic, and sure. I don't blame them. If we don't try it, we won't achieve it. I often say the market is the market. It'll sell where it deserves to sell. That being said, my strategy is such that I go 10 days or 10 showings, whichever happens first, and we price adjust. When they have a finite time limit, in which to sell their home, they can't afford to have it go stale. And something that I can often show clients is, and it's counterintuitive, but the faster a home sells, the more money they actually get for it. And that doesn't make sense to a lot of sellers, but it's actually statistically proven. And so, and for some reason, the public sees a house on the market for 10 days, and heaven forbid 10 days these days is a long time. Well, nobody wants it, so I don't want it either. And of course, that's preposterous, but unfortunately, it is the psychology of the buyers, and so we have to adhere to that sort of dynamic.
Yeah.
So.
Anything on that? What kind of skills do you have to have? What kind of expectations do you have to have as a seller in that situation?
I just think being super organized and having those frank conversations. I find people are military folks. They move a lot. In most cases, it's not their first purchase or sale, and so they've been through it, so they're a little bit more realistic on things. So.
Yeah.
It's just having those conversations up front.
I think that's where your realtor needs to be a real professional and be able to say, not to be bossy, but be able to show the market is the market, and this is why we're going to price at that, and really be able to back that up. And I really like your 10 days or 10 showings. With your permission, I'm gonna steal that. I might take it to 11/11, so I don't have copyright infringement, but we'll see. Yeah. What can the rest of the team? So now I say team. Some of you guys are individual. Some of you have somebody who works with you. But the mortgage brokers, the movers, anybody else who you might be working with, BGRS, cleaners, how can all of that work together to make a move go more smoothly for a seller? Like, for example, I like to know the mortgage broker from day one. Even on the selling side, they're probably buying something on the other side. That's a relationship I want to have right off the bat so that we have good communication. There's no days of delay.
I think that, so most members, when they're going to be receiving a posting message, they know well in advance of actually receiving that message. And so it's important to start getting all the ducks in a row well in advance so that as soon as they receive that message, you can kind of pull the trigger and get, put the wheels in motion. So that might mean, okay, so we get the stager in advance. We might get the photos done in advance. We might refer them to another realtor in their destination city in advance so they can get that conversation going, getting the mortgage broker on board right away and having the conversations. With regards to movers, that's typically organized by BGRS and somewhat out of their hands. So, it's taking control of the things that we can take control of in advance and getting those, checking off all the boxes you can beforehand so that when it comes time to push play, it's ready to go.
Awesome. So you've all answered that well, and you've answered that even part of the previous question. The flip side of a government sale is the purchase side, which usually comes in the form of a house hunting trip. If you're military who abbreviates everything, it's the HHT. They get a few days or a week or whatever to find a house. So if somebody has never seen one of these in action, they can be intense. I think my record for a week is 53 showings with somebody. And I know I organize them a certain way. What do you all do to make those go smoothly? When somebody's flying in, they're hitting the hotel on Saturday night, and then they have a week, no more, to find a house. What are you doing to make that work?
Number one, I pre-book a home inspection with address to be determined for usually day 3 or 4. Mm-hmm. So that usually day 1 is, you hit the ground running, looking at houses. Thankfully, it has changed a little bit with the lack of inventory. 7 years ago, an HHT looked very different, where we were looking at maybe 20 houses in a day. So with that said, you want to remind them to bring slip-on shoes. And, so it's a little bit different now, but it's, number one, refining the locations that you're looking at. So you're not driving to Orleans, to Barrhaven, to Canada, and everywhere in between. So that can all be done in advance. But booking things in advance with address to be determined, I think, is super helpful to make that week go smoothly.
Good. That's a great point. And when you say low inventory, just for somebody who's not sort of in our world, that just means fewer houses for sale available on the market. What do you do?
A lot of my work starts way before, I'm sure everybody, but I make sure that they've got their search set up and that we do a lot of those talks of narrowing it down and figuring out what's really important to them well ahead of time, because you can't be figuring that out on day 2. you just have to know what you're looking for, where you've narrowed it down, you've figured out the schools, you know what's area number one, and then if we can't find anything there, you've got a backup area. But everything has to be sorted out, looked at, knowing what they're selling for, what they're listing for, how that differs ahead of time, so that they know what they're looking for, and that they're willing to listen if I say, no, that's going to sell above, or that's not what you're looking for. You just don't have the time to waste. So
again, great points already touched upon. Certainly, and you mentioned it, we have a supply issue in Ottawa, and the pandemic didn't help. So now a lot of builders have stalled some of their projects. So resale is, really what's happening, it appears. And so I do exactly that. I have significant discussions prior to them arriving. I'll preview homes, I'll discount homes, and try and narrow it down as best I can.
I'm going to pause you for a sec, because one of those is really, they're all really important, but previewing homes, a lot of people have no idea what previewing homes is. Tell us about that.
Right. So previewing homes is really just going to see the home by myself, without my client with me, and
Before they're in town, even.
Before they're in town. So by doing that, we can, you hope to gauge their priorities and either shortlist or discount certain residences and avoid that time waste, because you just don't have a lot of time. And again, as mentioned, the inventory issue is a bigger one. We just don't have a high supply right now. So the unfortunate thing is that as we all know, when demand exceeds supply, prices rise and days on the market is significantly shortened. So we need, time is of the essence.
Yeah, I think that's sort of the gist on the purchase side. Time is of the essence. It's on the seller side for sure, but definitely on the buyer side where you have certain days. So the key takeaways I'm getting from each of you is be organized. I love the pre-booking a home inspection, address to be
I like that a
determined.
lot, actually.
Yeah.
That's a great, I hadn't even thought of that. It's a great idea.
Yeah, we do something similar. I say day one, we get to look at different neighborhoods. By day two, I want to kind of get an idea what neighborhood you want. And day three, we are only looking at houses in your target neighborhoods. And day four, we're probably having an inspection, writing an offer, and maybe day five is extra. But we want you done in 4 with 5 as an extra. You're talking about just the preparation that goes in front of it. And I love previewing as well too. So you can go see homes on your own, or even do a virtual showing where you've got somebody in on a Zoom meeting, or with the seller's permission to take a little video on your phone to send them to it for later. Yeah.
did a lot of that during COVID.
Yeah.
Like, I had my first purchase was helping folks, and they never even set foot in the home. It was all virtual.
That's always interesting when a client will purchase a home based on, obviously our recommendation, but the video and what they see. And in some cases, they don't have any choice.
Yeah.
Right. And how did that work out for them? Pretty well?
It's good.
They're happy with it?
Yeah, they were friends of mine, so they trusted me to,
of course,
to be blatantly obvious about good, the bad of the house.
And that's such a huge thing with being a professional. You can't just be a salesman that says go slam somebody into a home. You have to be somebody who is worth that trust. If somebody's going to trust you to buy a house, sight unseen, that's a pretty big level of trust that we have to carry with us. So you have talked about how to make that go smoothly. So let's ask about, what are some tips that you have for the members of the government, so the people who are relocating, to make their moves go more smoothly, either on the seller or buyer side? You haven't got to be the first one for a bit.
Sure. So really, it's incumbent upon that customer. Let's say they are selling their home. They probably know well in advance when they need to be in the saddle in their new location, in their new job. So getting hold of us as early as possible, so we can then, either prepare the home. We'll often do staging, minor repairs and whatnot to get the house ready. And then, just give us lots of notice. We're all easy to find, and then we can position the home amongst ourselves. Sometimes we have extremely rapid move requirements, and we might have a network of our buyers that, hey, I got a buyer for that house. So prudent to spread the word as early as possible.
Yeah, all hands on deck situation. How about you two? And even the small things. One of you mentioned plan to bring slip-on shoes for showings.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I always say bring slip-on shoes. I think another important conversation is because depending on what market they're coming from, every market has kind of a different expectation on what's a satisfactory deposit. So making sure that the member knows, okay, in Petawawa, maybe $500 or $1,000 deposit is totally cool, but in Ottawa, that's probably not going to fly. So you're going to want to make sure that you have some liquid funds, and making sure that they have done their research on what's important to them in their move. And I think that you mentioned team before. I don't have a full team, but I consider the people that I work with and the realtor on either the destination or their origin, part of the team as well. Is important to make a connection with their other realtor that they're working with so that you can communicate with each other with regards to closing date, firming up, things like that.
Perfect.
That's not much else.
You're playing clean up here.
It all comes down to organization and having the communication, open communications, sharing all the information as early as possible to find any hiccups that are going to be there. They're really busy prepping their house wherever they are or getting ready for their move or wrapping up their current job. A lot of times there's travel. People travel a lot. So it's figuring out the schedules of when things can be done, make sure that everybody's got enough time to do everything that needs to be done because it comes up quick. And if you can schedule things out in advance, it reduces the stress in the long run.
It can even do anything. We're talking mainly about buying and selling, but of course people rent doing these relocations too. And sometimes it's telling the potential tenant says, no, you don't need to come out 3 months in advance of your move because there's nothing for rent that's gone on yet for your closing date, unless you want to rent something and hold it for 2 extra months. I think we sort of covered the flip side of that is the pitfalls of what to avoid. Which is just not being prepared. You can solve so many things just by being ahead of the game and being early and just thinking about what could happen and getting in touch with you three professionals early, which leads me to my last question. And then I'm just going to grab you each for a story from your relocations. But how I would love for somebody who's relocating to choose one of you because you're going to do a fantastic job. How can they reach each of you? Here, we'll go left to right here.
Sure. So my name is Manfred. I always joke that my parents are Irish with a warped sense of humor. But so if you Google Manfred in Ottawa real estate, you'll find me. My website is callmanfred.com. And of course, my phone number is all over the place. So yeah.
What is it?
Oh,
Really?
I'm allowed to. Sure. 613.
Totally. You're encouraged to.
All right. 613-276-7169.
You got it.
Memorize and destroy.
I'm Sarah Percival. You can reach me at 613-883-7076. And my website is www.percivalhomes.com. There's an HHT tab on the website with a few tips and things like that. And you can email me at sarah@percivalhomes.com.
Wonderful. Annalee?
Email is annaleerice.royallepage.ca and phone number 613-222-3635 and got the annaleerice.royallepage.com website.
Yeah. And what's your
I do a lot through Facebook as well.
Yeah, you do a lot through Facebook and Insta as well. So you're pretty easy to find on there. I think you guys are probably part of different groups on your names are each distinctive enough that if somebody were to search you in Ottawa, they're going to find the one and only. So that's great.
So.
Thank you very much for coming on. Before we wrap up and let you all escape, I just want to tell me, without identifying names, tell me a good story from a relocation trip, because I feel like a lot of good stories from realtors, both horror stories and success stories, come from these type of things. Yeah. Anybody got one they want to start with?
Well, I had one last month just where the person should have been here last week, I think. It was like a set week where they all come, and they decided to. I've had it a couple times where people have come up ahead of if they're local in Ontario, where they come up ahead of time. They came up on Easter weekend,
like local-ish, if they're like
local-ish in Ontario.
Yeah,
they came up like they were super motivated, organized. We narrowed it down ahead of time. Came in, viewed a bunch of places, offered on the first day, accepted, inspection the next day. They had half their weekend left over. That's like the swimming perfect scenario where it can go smoothly. And then, of course, there's the opposites too. I won't mention them.
There's always those. I had a recent military listing, and it went to multiple offers. And I find the military community incredibly small. They all somewhat know each other or know of each other or know somebody who knows somebody. And they're all very supportive of each other. So we went into multiple offers, and one of the offers was from a military buyer that was on the final day of their HHT.
Oh, wow.
And they were not the highest offer by a fair bit. And my clients decided to move forward with their offer because, you know, they said that they've been in their shoes before. They've been in that position, and they wanted to kind of do them a solid and do them a favor. And at the end of the day, it didn't make a huge difference to them, but it would make a huge difference to the buyers. So we moved forward with their offer, and it was, you know, all's well that ends well, and everybody ended up happy. It was kind of a nice story.
Isn't that a great human story?
Yeah. It was just a really nice, like really, really good people.
I love that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
How about you? You got any?
Yeah. It's a couple years old now, but I had a young family come into town, and we found them a very interesting home and an incredible location backing onto a park and a dead-end street. And we managed to acquire the home at a more than fair price, and then spent a bit of time renovating it. So I have enough contacts to bring in the appropriate trades. He then got a job as a base commander in another location in Ontario, but they liked the house so much that he commuted on weekends to stay in the home. So kind of a fun story. And a great house, and I hope to keep it forever. But should they decide to sell at some point, they'll certainly do very well on it based on our... So it was a kind of a fun one,
Yeah. My contribution to this would be just the one. I think my record was 53 showings on a house hunting trip. It was bonkers. I think it was 2019 in the height of that spring, and we would be driving out to a place, and I would get a text that it sold. You know, so then it was back to the office to see what else was on the market that we could get. And we were going Canada and Barhaven and Orleans all on the same day. And sometimes because of it, it was a completely inefficient route. And then during a showing, we got the call that they had got their offer accepted that we had out in the wild on another place. And we got in the car, we found, the song is called All I Do Is Win. I don't know who plays it, but we all had the sunroof open, and we just sang the song like as the three of us. And we were so elated. I usually drive with them. And then the other little one was just a government relocation that I thought she was such a ninja. They had a brand new baby that they were relocating with, was one of their kids. The other one was with grandma, but the other one is so new. And she was nursing the baby on the stairs going up and down, like we were showing homes in rapid succession. And she would like have the baby latched to her, hold her in one hand, other hand on the railing. And we would be going up and down onto the next one. And yeah.
Moms are superheroes.
Moms are superheroes, man. Thank you all for coming today. You're all amazing. I would love having you on again anytime. And I wish you all the success with your government relocation clients. They're all lucky to have you. Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
What is people first when it comes to real estate? After all, we're buying and selling properties, so is it really about people? People first just means that people are more important than properties. It means that at the heart of every move, there's a human story. And that's why my team and I have to be excellent for you every time you buy or sell a home. That's why we take so much time to educate all our clients on the market and on the process. That's why we are continually improving our processes, honing our negotiation skills so that you know you are getting Ottawa's best when you work with us. That's why we stay in touch year after year with our past clients, because I believe, and we believe as a team, that being a business in Ottawa means that we have an obligation to our community, to improve it, to serve it, and to connect the people who live in it. In an era where property sales are often prioritized over people, our team puts relationships first. One client at a time, one relationship at a time. That's people first real estate.